To engaging with the community. My name is Danny Howard. I've been the Associate Director at NIC International College, which is right next door for, well, this is my 18th year at NIC. Yes, great place to work. Actually, we work really closely with Lakeland College. Our higher level students take their accredited college courses here at Lakeland College. We actually share the facility in terms of libraries, and so there's that type of relationship between the NIC and Lakeland College. So for each of the speakers, they will be given 20 minutes each, not 20 minutes per person, but 20 minutes for the first, 20 minutes for the second, 20 minutes for the third. Please hold all questions until after all three groups go. After that, we'll have a Q&A session, and of course this will finish at 2:50 for the next round. Today we have Gregory King. Gregory King teaches at Chubu University. He says he's been here for 15 years, and he teaches English and cross-cultural communication. The second speaker is Patrick Maher, and he also teaches at Chubu University, and he's been here for 9 years in Japan, and he teaches English and translation. So please everyone give him a hand. We'll go ahead and begin. And for speakers, when we get to the 15-minute mark, I will hold up a sign that says 5 minutes left. When we get to the 18-minute mark, I'll hold up a sign that says 2 minutes left. Thank you. Do you have the lights on? Okay, to do that, we have to turn off. Well, try it out to see what it looks like. And if they like it, that's fine. If you like it, that's fine. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what I like, so I'm just back here.
We care.
Oh, too dark. No, that is too dark. Yeah.
We lost the guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's either this or
She'll do this throughout the.
Sorry?
No, it's okay. Let's have the lights back on.
Back on?
Okay, let's go ahead and begin.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Oh, thank you. So Greg and I today are talking about strengthening cross-cultural communication in international service learning projects. So our university, probably like many of your universities, has different sister school relationships and thus exchange programs and sees students coming from many other countries to study abroad at our university. We also have ties with different universities within Japan. So we have the opportunity to engage in many different large-scale cross-cultural communication, cross-cultural projects where we have speakers of different languages trying to work together for some kind of cause. And by service learning, we're talking about not just having a project where everybody engages in it at one time, but having a project where certain students are able to practice a particular skill, get some practical experience that can help them in their education or maybe help them in their future. Specifically, we're talking about how to train and efficiently use some students as interpreters in cross-cultural projects. First, service learning is a word that you may have heard before, but just to clear up what it means compared to volunteerism. Volunteering, I think we all know what volunteering is. The difference here would be that service learning is a type of education that not only benefits the people who are receiving some kind of service, but also benefits the people who are giving the service. It's very give and take. It's very mutual. So it's designing programs so that both sides are getting some kind of tangible benefit out of it. As well, this requires both extensive classroom-based preparation and meaningful critical reflection. So before engaging with the community, taking time beforehand in the classroom to prepare students for what they will be doing, and then also having them reflect on it critically in an academic-based setting afterwards, so that we're not just engaging one time in a volunteer project. There's strong preparation, then there's strong engagement, and you're reflecting afterwards. So these things are important, that the benefits are both for the students and the community in these types of service learning projects, and also that there's an academic focus beforehand and after. So service learning tries to hit these three key points. So civic engagement with the community, academic study, and the one that was most difficult for us was the practical experience. So being in a volunteer program, of course, has benefits for people, right? You're getting out, you're engaging with the community, maybe learning something about society, makes you feel good. These are all good. However, for our students, involving them in the project that Greg will talk about soon, giving them some sort of practical experience that we could prepare them for in the classroom and have them reflect on afterwards. And we decided that interpretation training, especially given the multilingual makeup of the participants in this project, would be very, very good practical experience and maybe open a new career path that students at our university don't think about when they start studying English. That interpretation and translation is something that you could do in the future as well. So, Greg, if you'd like to start off and talk about why we started thinking about service learning.
So, we all know about what happened in March of 2011 with the earthquake and the tsunami. We're both graduates of Ohio University. And at that point, the president, Roderick McDavis, made a pledge to send Ohio University students to the Iwate Coast for 5 years. He made a 5-year pledge. And why Iwate? One of our colleagues, Dr. Thompson, who teaches at Ohio University, has done his research up there. So that was our connection. And he made a connection with Iwate Prefectural University. And we were able to work together with them, and we started with these projects that I'll get into here in a minute. The players here, we have Japanese students, students from Ohio, and then other international students who joined in about the 3rd year. So the 1st year and 2nd year was mostly volunteer. We didn't really get into the practical aspect of it. We did this pre-departure orientation, talking about Iwate, talking about the tsunami and whatnot. What we mainly did, we did some environmental cleanup. You can see here we're cleaning out some sludge from a river. Some other students visited an affected school, a kindergarten. They read some books to the kids, sang some songs. We've also visited temporary housing units. As you know, there's people who are displaced, and a lot of them, you know, they feel trapped in their temporary housing. So we visited that place. We have the Nanohana project. The Nanohana is canola, and we helped. Well, we've done several things. We've weeded the Nanohana fields. We've sown the seeds, and this past year we actually planted tulips. And we've had group discussions with students as a reflection, trying to go towards more of a service learning. So as you can see here, this is the school that was affected. This was in September of 2011. You can't see it, they cleaned it up very well. It looks like it was rebuilt. You can't really tell, but the water came up to about here. That's how far the water was up at this school. I didn't have a chance to go there. I was at the river, but they were amazed at how clean, how much they cleaned that place up. Here we are, we have some students here, Ohio students working with Iwate Prefectural University students, cleaning out the river. Mostly sludge. You'd find bits and pieces of houses. We found some pictures, like purikura type things. And so this was, yeah, a bit heart-wrenching when you find, you know, these pieces of people's lives. This river is salmon run up this river to spawn. And there was a part down the river that we weren't to touch because that's where they actually had their nests. And this past year, we went and looked at that spot, and it hasn't been touched, so I don't think it's going to get touched. I think they want to leave it just like it is. Here we are in the canola fields. This was, this would have been the 2nd year we started doing this, and we're just weeding, trying to make nice rows for the canola. Year 3, since we hooked up with Iwate Prefecture University, in year 2, we listened to some projects that they were doing on their own, and one of them was the Mizu Bora project. Mizu from water, Bora from volunteer. You can see the stacks of water bottles over there. Those were donated by Itoen, the beverage company. We also started to have some guided tours and presentations. Residents took us around, took the students around, and told us, you know, what their experience was when everything happened. And that's when we started with needing translators. So Pat acted as a translator. We had somebody else from Iwate who was a translator, and we thought, okay, we can get students involved in this. And this was the first year we took students from our university. They didn't really, they weren't acting as translators at that time, but they went up, they experienced that we had them read articles that we had written before we went up. They experienced it when they came back. They had to write a paper in English, and they got course credit. So they got two credits for that. We also hooked up with the Honjo International students. This is a foundation that was set up by the founder of Itoen. So some of these students speak really good Japanese. Some of them don't have Japanese, but they're all over Japan doing some kind of research, or maybe they're working on their PhD or their master's degrees. So some of them need some help, some of them don't need any help. So we thought, okay, maybe we can use our students to help facilitate communication between the local residents and these students. You can see here we're loading the trucks up with water. We take that water to the temporary housing unit. This started right after the tsunami, when they needed water. They didn't have any water coming in. There's no problems with water now. This is used as a mode to get people to open their doors and to communicate with them so they know that they're not forgotten. You can see some students here. And we don't go just to temporary housing units. We also go to houses in the affected area. This is one of the temporary housing units that we visited. We also looked at what kind of work they're doing. So I think that's kelp or some kind of seaweed they're doing. And wakame, it was wakame, yeah. And they were preparing that, and so we got to learn about that as well. Year 4, I'm going to turn it back over to Pat. This is when we really got into our translation project.
So year 1 and 2 of this, right, and this is not a project that we ourselves began. This was something that we were invited to join, and as the years went by, we got our students involved, and seeing the types of projects that they were doing and maybe a niche where we could help, we've gone into service learning. So years 1 and 2 were strictly volunteer, engaging, civic engagement, cleaning up, maybe talking to some people, but very labor intensive, trying to help out. Year 3 with the Mizubora project, now we have more communication going on between especially elderly residents who are living in temporary housing and students. And also with guided tours and group discussions, and in year 4 we had storytelling. This is a temple priest that was telling us about an hour-long story of what happened from his perspective when the tsunami came. Now we've got all these avenues for communication. And when you have these sorts of projects where we have study abroad students involved, of course we want them to, being in Japan, for them to use their Japanese and test out their Japanese as best they can, but not to sacrifice the content and the chance for meaningful communication. And this is where we thought we could really get some of our students involved as interpreters. When we go up, I'm the head interpreter for something like this, for storytelling, where there's about 100 people listening to one guy and he talks for way too long and speaks way too quickly. Not something that a student is going to be able to handle without, years of experience interpreting. However, there are avenues where students can help out, especially when we visit the temporary housing, one-on-one chances to communicate. The dialect up there can be very difficult to understand. However, these are basic conversations, and there's questions that international students want to ask, but maybe they don't have the Japanese, or they don't know the best way to hedge their question or their comment. We don't want that chance for meaningful communication that can mean something to the residents up there and mean something to the students being involved to be lost. So we thought, okay, let's get our students involved in something that gives them civic engagement, academic preparation, and practical experience as an interpreter. So, with year 4, we took 2 of our students, and before this, I teach a 15-week-long interpretation course for basics of interpretation. Many students take it, and then we chose 2 students in particular that we thought could really get some good practical experience up here. So you have the beforehand academic preparation. Then when they're here, they're doing a lot of one-on-one interpretation, small group interpretation, and also getting to see what I'm doing as someone who's had interpretation experience. And then afterwards, they're still doing written reflections and getting course credit, so there's academic, sort of an academic component afterwards as well. Finally, in year 4, we have what maybe we could call a service learning project for our students. That was last year. This year in September, we will go for the 5th year. These are the 2 students we took from our university who acted as interpreters. This year as well, we're hoping to take, I think, maybe 4 students this time to act as interpreters. As Greg said, we have large groups of about 100 people. We have quite the array of Japanese ability, from no problems to only problems. And we've got a lot of different types of residents, children, elderly, that we're trying to communicate with. So, again, we've hit all 3 of these. Students are getting practical experience as interpreters, cultural ambassadors, and leaders, trying to find where interpretation is needed. Going forward, what we hope to find is how we can more efficiently use our students to benefit this program. And this is something we're thinking about with the schedule coming up. So this is our project, and this is a very big project that we were kind of drawn into. But if you're in a situation as well where you might have a very multicultural group that's involved in some sort of project, or if you're looking to get involved in your community, interpretation, training, and then use for the students in a service learning kind of model, I think can be extremely beneficial. Just to talk about the course, because this is a course that I think could be offered at almost any university, strictly because this is for students of all proficiency levels. This is an elective course. There are no prerequisites to get in. So we have some of the top students, and we have some very, very low students as well. And these are classes of about 35 people, which was difficult at first to get everybody to have some interpretation practice. But it has come together. But the course is designed to give them the skills, the basic interpretation skills they would need in a community setting for volunteering. So we practice consecutive interpretation, which is speak, taking notes, listening, stop, and then speak, not at the same time. We do Japanese to English and English to Japanese, and the types of topics we focus on are exactly what you would need for one-on-one, informal, meaningful communication. Self-introductions, informal conversations, travel and tourism, speeches and presentations. And by covering travel and tourism especially, you can work in the content for the community that you will be in. So before going to Iwate, the students that we chose know the numbers of people living in temporary housing. They know what kind of areas they're going to. They already have that knowledge, so when they go to the places, they're more invested about the types of people they'll be interpreting for and the topics they'll be talking about. Another benefit just for English education in general is that this class and the types of activities we do hit the skills that I think we want students in general to improve in learning a second language. So listening and chunking content by being able to listen for ideas instead of words. Taking those ideas and putting them in your own words with speaking fluency. Confidence, making peace with imperfection. You're not going to understand everything, and you might not be able to say everything perfectly. But as an interpreter, you can't sit and wait for 10 seconds while your mind tries to put together the knowledge. You have to start speaking. You have to try to get communication working, cultural literacy, and so on. This is good because I think there's benefits in 3 realms. First of all, having this class as a whole, there's an expanded outlook on how you can use English in the future. Many students, I think, that come into our school think, well, I'm going to study English, so either maybe I'll work in a company that uses English or I'll teach English. But no, there's interpreting, there's translation. These are skills that are needed not only in business, but in entertainment, in many different realms of society. It's also interesting to see that weaker students can sometimes thrive in this course and stronger students can struggle. This is a kind of skill and a kind of situation that maybe many students aren't put in. And it's always great to see the student that thinks they're not very good all of a sudden realize, oh, I'm a very fluent speaker. And the students that do well on exams kind of struggle with that. Kind of changes the balance of power. You get a power shift where me as a teacher, I need to be able to impromptu navigate in Japanese as well, and I'm going to make mistakes, and then students will argue about, no, maybe you should say it this way, or maybe you should say it this way. They're getting a teaching opportunity as well with their own language. And then many of the different fluencies, confidences, and accuracies with using a language. For the students themselves, as I mentioned, you have a greater appreciation of the volunteer that you're involved in. You know the players, you know the places. You're not just going one time and experiencing for the first time. You've been prepared, and now you know what you're going to be talking about. Leadership experience, mediation, interpretation experience. You're not only using the language, you're being a social animal and getting in there and really trying to make the communication work. And it's a low-pressure environment. There's not a lot of pressure when it's just one-on-one and it's informal. And maybe for interpretation, you don't get that experience in many other types of opportunities and chances to see other types of interpretation. For the project itself, more meaningful communication and overall interaction. The content of something like this and community-based volunteer projects with certain groups of people, it can be very beneficial, especially if you have people from different backgrounds and different cultures actually speaking and having an interpreter there who could really make a connection with the questions that people want to ask and the things that people want to say. A greater understanding and appreciation of the stories you hear, greater depth and fluidity for both the students and the residents. And then you get less hesitation, especially from maybe international students who are afraid they might say something stupid. You've got somebody there who can save you if you really want to ask something. Anyhow, as we are kind of running out of time here, in your community as well, I'm sure there are a number of people, places, groups that would also appreciate this sort of volunteer involvement. And if you could turn it into a service learning model, whether it's interpretation or something else that gives some students some practical experience where you're preparing them before they're going in, it can lead to good give and take for benefits. It can become a consistent long-term project that really, really hits community desire as well. Anyhow, that's just a little bit about service learning and what we're doing. And if you have any questions about don't wake up. Service learning, interpretation, anything in general, we'd be happy to answer those questions afterwards. Thank you.
I didn't yank them off the stage. I'm just holding up numbers, that's all. Okay? That's okay. Okay. Thank you very much. The next speaker I know well. She's a professor at Lakeland College here. Her name is Iskra Jintba.